Hi there, this is Kerem with Solar Academy. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why solar is most likely going to be the best investment you make over the next decade. So let me share my screen. But before we go into the details of solar, first a couple of fun facts. Did you know that sun provides us with thousands times more energy than we are currently using? And that the amount of sun energy, the amount of solar energy that shines on Texas in a single month is more energy than all the oil that has ever been pumped out of Texas? Or that an area of 100 miles by 100 miles of solar panels in the US is enough to power all of US's electricity needs today? Or an area about 4 times the size is enough for the world? Well, let's dig in and understand why that is. So this is a 300-watt solar panel. Today in the US, the cost for this panel is about 50 cents per watt, meaning the panel costs about $150. Yes, this panel that used to cost $150, that costs $150 today, used to cost about 5 times more when I entered the solar industry about a decade ago. And if you go back several more decades, the same or similar size panel would have cost you almost 100 times more. And why is that? So if you look at the history of silicon PV photovoltaic cell pricing, and silicon photovoltaic cells are the main components of a solar panel, you will see that over the last 40 or so years, the cost of PV cells have gone down by almost 200x. Just like most electronics go down over price as the industry gets scale, the same thing is happening with solar panels and solar technologies. And as a result, over the last decade, we have seen solar grow more than 30 times worldwide. And these trends actually go back even further. You know, that was just the last 10 years. And the 10 years before that was similar, and the 10 years before that is similar as well. So that is why today solar provides close to 2% of all electricity worldwide and is likely to do so or to grow another 20 to 30x over the next decade, getting close to almost half of electricity needs over the next 10 years. So this is how a solar panel works. Sun shines on it and electrons flow out. The good thing is sun shines pretty much equally no matter where you are in the developed world. You know, even the distance between Maine and Southern California is plus or minus 10, 20%. So the amount of solar resources is pretty consistent across the world and across the US in most places where humans live. And as long as you have a local electric utility company that is willing to buy that electricity that you're producing through an agreement called net metering, which most utility companies around the world and in the US have at this point, you're going to be generating electricity with your panels, and that's going to have a value. So to understand that, let's look at that math a little bit more in detail. I'm going to go with the lower average of solar resource, and I'm going to assume there's only just about 4 hours of sun per day shining on this 300-watt solar panel. So generating about 1.2 watt hours of electricity, or 1.2 kilowatt hours of electricity per day. So that 1.2 kilowatt hours of electricity over 365 days is going to produce about 438 kilowatt hours per year. And pricing that at the average value of electricity in the US, 13 cents per kilowatt hour. This is the average for most homes, for all homes in the US. You're going to get about $57 of annual production coming out of this panel, which should cost you around $150. That is a 38% cash on cash yield on the solar panel. And keep in mind, this panel that used to cost $150, that costs $150 today, is most likely going to cost 1/3 of that price or less over the next decade, and even less the decade after that. So you can just imagine what that math is going to look like, depending on how fast the prices go down. And of course, the other element is this price that we valued electricity at, which is 13 cents. But if you look at the overall, U.S. Pricing of electricity, and keep in mind there are over 3,000 different electric utility companies in the U.S., each one with slightly different pricing and rules and regulation. That 13 cents was just the average, and this map is several years old at this point, more than several years old. So pricing in the U.S. is more like 13 cents on average today, and getting close to 20 cents on average in California, and getting close to 40 cents in Hawaii. And my math here used only 13 cents. So if you double that, which is kind of close to what most solar going people use in the US, this yield also doubles from 38% to more like 76%. So that is the reason why 2 million homes already have solar in the US. So looking at the math of the investment, these are your traditional investment tools, treasury bills, bonds, corporate bonds, and public company stocks. This is kind of the general return that you would get with these types of investments over long periods of time, compared to your solar panel producing 38% of its value in electricity every year. Well, that sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? And the answer is yes, it might be, but it might not be also. And so we're going to get into those details of why that return might go up or down depending on your situation over the next couple of videos. Thank you very much for your attention, and please watch our next two videos to understand solar in a little bit more detail.